fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV and to the Nightfall at Daytona International Speedway. You're watching the Pro Truck Showdown presented by Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installations. This is round one of Season 3. We've just come off our 4-week-long summer series where we saw some fantastic racing as the drivers decided to let their hair down and have a bit more fun during the off-season between the two showdowns. But now it's time to see if a new champion will be crowned or if Mitchell McLeod can defend his driver's title. 5 laps, 7 laps and 9 laps, the race lengths tonight, and they will be racing into the darkness here at the road course layout of Daytona. My name is Reese Gardner for SimSpeed TV, and joining me in the commentary box is Cameron Dance. Well, Cam, it's time to get started in these Lucas Oil Off-Road Pro 2 trucks again, and we're exactly the same place we were at the start of the summer series, and the racing there was fantastic. Of course, you weren't there. Jay accompanied me in the commentary box for that one, but you certainly saw what the racing was like at Atlanta Oval, so Roval racing really lends itself well to these events.
Yes, certainly, and it's going to be a very exciting night. I mean, we've seen the times in practice being laid down, what everybody was doing with bump drafting and using the draft to their advantage to get those very, very quick laps. Going to be a little bit of a challenge in qualifying to make that happen, but certainly it's going to be very, very exciting in the race, nevertheless, with the fact that there's going to be all that draft to play with and all that bump drafting as well. So looking forward to it. And yeah, like I said, from what we saw at Atlanta, if anything, this is just going to be absolute chaos and really, really cool to watch.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a look at where Daytona International Speedway sits. Up in the northern area of Florida, near the city of Orlando. Disneyland is somewhere around there as well, but the mouse is not going to be making a visit here tonight, because there is the arena and the historic road course layout of Daytona International Speedway. You got to be a lion to try and get around this place quickly, and with the bravery required, you reach super high speeds on the oval section, going through the bus stop of 8, 9, 10, and 11, a very challenging high-speed flick on the back stretch of the oval, and of course the braking zone for turn 1, one of the highest approaches, highest speed approaches to any corner on this racetrack, and very difficult to get the line right through there.
Yes, certainly, and it's even harder in these trucks, especially with the fact that you don't really have any of that sort of grip that you find in the likes of the normal cars that race around here, the likes of GTE, GT3, prototypes, that sort of stuff. So you really do have to actually think about where you've got to brake and how much power you've got to put down in order to get out of the corner as well. So it's really going to be a real challenge for a lot of these drivers, but certainly it's going to make it very interesting, that's for sure.
Aaron Russell here, having just started his qualifying lap. It's a 6-minute session as usual in this series, and every driver gets just 1 lap to set their initial grid spot for the night, and there are progressive grids throughout the 3 races tonight. You start where you finished in the race previous. Looking at the conditions, we can see because of the night conditions, the track temp very cool, not that much warmer than the air temperature, so it's going to be a bit harder to work some heat into those tires as we see that truck of Tommy Heyman overshooting the bus stop. And not only is that going to ruin his run onto the final part of the oval, it's also going to mean that that lap will be invalidated by going off into the grass. Of course, iRacing's automated penalty system is in full force here, so the drivers do have to be careful where they put their truck on these laps. What about Sam Devantier then? A driver that we've seen a lot of in this series, exiting NASCAR 3 and 4. And through the tri-oval, you're allowed to go underneath the double painted lines on the tri-oval. And Devantier sets a 206.47 on his initial lap. And we saw drivers setting around those lap times, 2:05s we'd be looking for super quick lap times. But Mitchell McLeod there showing that the lap time without the draft, another 2:06.4, not that much faster than Sam Devantier. So I think Mitch is going to be looking over his shoulder a bit at drivers like this guy, Brenton Hobson.
Yes, certainly. And Hobbo's shown a lot of good pace over that summer series as well. Like we saw, he got a couple of 1-2 finishes with a teammate, Glenn Postlethwaite, across the line. And Postlethwaite, funnily enough, has gone straight to pole as well, doing at 6.3. So the man is back in charge and certainly showing that his summer series dominance was no fluke at all. So we'll see what Hobbo can do and whether he can put himself on the front row with his teammate to make it an SSR front row lockout. Comes across the line, it's 206.1 and straight to pole.
Excellent stuff there from Brenton Hobson, taking over 2/10 out of his teammate there up at the front of the field. We've still got a fair amount of drivers that have yet to set lap times. Lockie Dalton crosses the line. Let's see where he puts himself, down in 13th position, not quite where he would have wanted. We've seen Dalton challenging for podium positions in the past. There's definitely a possibility that he can get a bit more pace out of that truck. But still waiting for these times to come in for the last drivers in the field. It looks like that's actually it, as the session has run out. Really, these events just go by so quickly. I should be used to that by now. It looks like we have a grid now for the first race of the night. 5 laps, and it's going to be headed up by the Synergy Sim Racing duo of Hobson and Postlethwaite, with the reigning champion Mitchell McLeod starting alongside Sam Devantier on the second row. Ben Snell challenged for wins last season. He'll be looking for a good start there from 5th alongside Gregory Favell. And Harry Tompkins and Justin Howe on row 4, with the top 10 rounded out by Craig Roffey and Ryan Jones.
You can have Lachlan Manif and Kay Donnelly on row 6, Lockie Dalton and Caleb Hire is going to be on row 7, Dwayne Priest and Jackson Callow on row 8, Simon Mazzomo and Daniel Stevens on row 9, Lindsay Cobbs and Jack Flood will round out the top 20 on row 10.
Let's see if Daniel Stevens adds another sausage roll to the door of his truck. He'll certainly won't be hoping for another rollover. It's Westbrook and Russell on row 11, with Walsh and Dillon behind them. Out of position by a fair amount is Aaron Dillon. He's usually up there in the top 10. Tyler Lugo Vickery, the Floridian, starts alongside Sean Doyle, with Maxfield, Trezise, Finlay and Stride rounding out the top 30.
You have in the 31st, Philip Howell, followed by Gary Wellman, Damien McMahon, Bo Albert, Richard Mason, Cohen Tard, Matthew Walker, Matthew Hill, Scott Van Ness and Zach Blanche rounding up the top 40.
And Xander Antonieff has been removed from the server for setting a time too slow in practice. He won't be taken to the start. It's Gartner, Morganti, Chandler, Cordwell, Sam McLeod, Mitch's dad, starting down in 46, and Jared Laws and Tommy Heyman rounding out the field. Just 20 seconds left then on the gridding time. You see a huge long line of trucks stretching into the distance there. The standing start, is going to be difficult here on the tri-oval. The cars are going to veer to the side a bit thanks to that banking. So let's see how the drivers manage to pull it off. The timer is down. We're going to wait for the revs to rise. Thunderous V8 sound of these trucks as the green flag flies and we are racing. And look at that sideways move there from everyone coming through the tri-oval. It's a good start from Hobson and Postlethwaite. Not the best start for Lachlan Manif, though. He's been beaten by Ryan Jones into the braking zone for the first turn. And it looks like the Synergy duo controlling things as McLeod slots behind in third. Ben Snell and Sam Devantier challenging each other through turns 2 and 3. And Devantier comes out. Well, from that, there's a big incident there. That's Daniel Stevens and Justin Howe that have come together, I think. In the Daniel Stevens running the number 4. That's Gregory Favell there in the number 3. They came together through the kinks coming out of turn 1.
Yeah, they certainly didn't. Howie actually just barely clipped the end of the pit exit wall, unfortunately. So ending up making contact with it, Gregory, unfortunately, luckily managed to rejoin as safe as he could. Nearly ended up on his lid with the fact that he had side-by-side contact with Damien Westbrook, but certainly a very, very lucky escape for Justin Howe, but certainly not the start he will have wanted at all, as he's lost a number of places out of there as a result, dropping just outside of the top 10. And that's a car going up and over at the final car onto the oval.
Yeah, goodness me. That's created a bit of a tizzy there. That is Lachlan Manif, who went around there at the turn coming onto the oval. This is where the draft is going to come in for these guys. You're going to see some huge draft trains form as Postlethwaite gets the run on Hobson and McLeod trying to join him here as the Synergy teammates run side by side into the bus stop. Hobson lifts off to let his teammate go. He knows that he can pick up the draft coming out of that turn as we see big challenges from behind. Ryan Jones and Craig Roffey running side by side. And my goodness, they managed to match each other on the exit as well. This is going to give a double draft to Lockie Dalton just behind.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's going to make it that much more interesting. We can see a little bit of drama going on just inside, or on the exit of the bus stop as well. The number 13 currently in a little bit of a strife at the moment, but back at the front of the field, Mitchell McLeod bump dropping Brenton Hobson on the way down towards the start-finish line, and Posey getting in behind his teammate now to take the position of McLeod and doing a little bit of teamwork as well on the low side of the tri-oval, and McLeod's going to try and hold it around the outside, but decides to think better of it. Meanwhile, just behind, a little bit of contact going on between Doyle and a few others around him, but certainly managing to get away with that one, luckily.
Yes, luckily indeed. Hobson's protecting the inside from McLeod as now Ben Snell and Sam Devanti are drawn up to the back. Big bumps there at the apex as the truck's concertina up, and Snell gets to the inside of McLeod on the exit of the first horseshoe. Not going to be able to get a run on him though, but through this kink, it's flat out in most cars, but in these trucks you got to give a big old lift. You cannot go through there flat out in these things, and that's going to be one of the places where a lot of time can be made up or lost. Meanwhile, Justin Howe trying his recovery drive, coming around the outside of Cade Donnelly on the run up to the turn coming onto the oval. This is another incredibly challenging turn to hook up. Tight on entry, but really opens up on the exit. Got to be careful of the oversteer and the loss of traction that you see there from Justin Howe. But Cade Donnelly not able to take advantage on the exit. He's going to have to wait for the draft here coming into the bus stop.
Yeah, it certainly is, and just going to sit station for the time being behind Justin Howe as well. No point really trying to throw a move up the inside at the bus stop because you can't compromise your exit and really hold each other up, but still at the front of the field, McLeod had a look on Postlethwaite there, but decided better of it. Hobson's really dropped off the back of those two as well, so has lost a little bit of time, and now Ben Snell's going to be on the back of Brenton Hobson as a result. And there's a little bit of a gap between Snell and Devontier, but Devontier is probably going to be in on the real shot of getting that draft, as it's a very, very strong draft, and going to be no surprise that we possibly might even see a top 10 train heading into turn one.
Indeed, we'll see what happens when they get to the braking zone. Hobson going down to the bottom of the racetrack to protect from Ben Snell. Devantier doesn't have the draft, and that's allowed Ryan Jones to get alongside him as they come across the line for the lead, though. Postlethwaite up the inside of McLeod, trying to defend, and McLeod left just enough room there on the outside to continue his moves, but going to have to slot back in behind Glenn Postlethwaite as, oh, that was a bit awkward there between Tompkins, Devantier, and Dalton, going side by side into the braking zone. And oh, that's quite the entry there from Damian Westbrook and Lindsay Hobbs. They are fighting incredibly hard there for the last couple positions inside the top 14.
It's certainly, and it's been a lot of argy-bargy as well, just inside that top 15 as well. The likes of Mazomo, Hydes, Callow, and a few others really getting their elbows out in some forms or another on that previous lap, as well as Mazomo got the massive whack from behind from Jack Flood as well. But certainly nothing, you can't separate these drivers at the moment because it's just so close at the moment. And Devontier launching it up the inside to get that position off Craig, and he's going to make it stick in the end.
He is indeed. That's allowed Justin Howe to get alongside Craig Roffey. You see him running in the middle of the racetrack here. Well, if you turn to the left, as our director's doing right now, hello, Justin Howe. It hasn't been long since we've seen you last. He's got the draft of Devantier and Dalton just up ahead, and he's going to have the advantage coming into the bus stop. We'll see if Roffey tries to challenge him. Devantier holding back a bit from Lockie Dalton coming into the chicane, but there we go. That's move completed there for Justin Howe, and Roffey now has got to face off against Donnelly, Priest, Hobbs, and Westbrook, who are in a 4-truck draft train just behind. Have a look at this for the lead, meanwhile. Mitchell McLeod having half a second's worth of time over Glenn Postlethwaite, but you see that gap coming down and down and down as they come towards the start-finish line. That is how much the draft is worth. Look at the run Posy has.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and he might just barely miss out on leading that lap by absolutely nothing, only 14 hundredths in the end. He's going to try and hold around the outside of McLeod, though, is Posy on the way through turn number 1, and he's going to wash out wide and allow Ryan Jones on through, who's now going to sit P2 out of absolutely nowhere. Ben Snell's going to find his way on by, well, try to at least, on Brenton Hobson around the outside. Breaks a lot later than Hobson does, nearly runs into the back of Glenn Postlethwaite, was not going to be able to get that position of Hobbo in the end.
That was good opportunity.
Qualifying.
Oh dear, yeah, that's no good there. Two trucks up on their sides. It's Cade Donnelly and Damian Westbrook who have come together for some reason. We're going to take a look at that as Priest goes for the move. Virtual Racing School Replay, our new replay sponsor here at SimSpeed TV. This is what happened to Donnelly and Westbrook. You see Justin Howe just up ahead, and Donnelly gets sideways, Westbrook gets sideways, and then Dwayne Priest comes into both of them and knocks them both over. So Donnelly and Westbrook blameless in that one, I believe. And Westbrook has just been flipped over again as oh no, he hasn't. He's actually stayed where he is. Poor Damian Westbrook is number 316 trying to flip him back over there and has succeeded. That's Richard Mason giving a bit of help there to some fellow stricken racers. As for the lead, Ryan Jones going for it on Mitchell McLeod into the bus stop and gets it done. So this is a great charge from Ryan Jones over the last lap. He took advantage of the draft coming out of the chicane on the previous lap, and that is what allowed him to stick himself up the inside into turn 1 and grab second place. As we see Daniel Stevens getting the move done on Jackson Callow there. Caleb Hides is starting to come under a lot of pressure here as Mazomo has one hell of a run.
Yeah, he certainly does, and a bit of bump drafting going on as well, as Mazomo is going to look to the very high side on the way through NASCAR 3 and 4, but going to decide to sit behind for the time being, knowing that there's possibly going to be something happening as that is into the wall. Goes to 92 and manages to only just get away with it, does Caleb Hides, but it's all going on with a skirmish for the lead, though, because you've got 5 cars not knowing who wants to be anywhere near the front, and Ryan Jones now, the man at the front of the field, who's going to be the sitting duck come this last lap when the white flag is out.
Indeed. Oh, Postlethwaite gives McLeod a tap, sends him wide in the hairpin. Big oversteer for the number 40. That allows Brenton Hobson to get the run on the exit. He's going to slot in front of McLeod on the run up to the kink. This is a great battle for the lead. 5-way fight, possibly a 6-way one if Ben Snell has anything to say about it there at the back of that train. Postlethwaite stuck on the outside, though, versus Mitchell McLeod and getting forced out slightly wide again. McLeod does not want to lose that position for anything, but he's left Postlethwaite a space open on the inside, goes for the move. The number 44 of Lockie Dalton tries to take advantage, but cannot keep the momentum up in the middle of the corner. So Ryan Jones now into the lead. Brenton Hobson back into second.
And here's the big question. Is Ryan Jones going to lift off and have a bit of gamesmanship here, or is he going to be a little bit of checkmate going on with the fact that he is going to be leading this pack into the bus stop? He's going to be still leading this race. Mitchell McLeod looking up the inside of Postlethwaite, though, going to look to the inside of Hobson as well. This could possibly be race changing, and he's going to get up the inside of both of them and take 2 for 1 into the bus stop. What a move by Mitchell McLeod, and here comes the run now for Mitchell McLeod. Ryan Jones really hasn't done this one well. He's set himself up to fail massively, and he's only going to lose this race because Mitchell McLeod is rapidly closing up on the back of him with that massive toe draft that he's got. Mitchell McLeod going to go to the high side. He's going to be squeezed to the wall. On the wall. Mitchell McLeod barely holds onto it. Brenton Hobson's going to come out of nowhere and win this one.
Oh my goodness, Ryan Jones might just hold on to a podium. No, he won't. Oh yes, he will. He's finished in third, only just managed to keep Lockie Dalton behind. My goodness, what a finish there. Well, McLeod did go for the move around the outside, but Jones was very steadfast in his defense there as the checkered flag flies. This is what happened here at the line and just how close it was. Jones losing third place to Glenn Postlethwaite, and Lockie Dalton just behind at the line. There was barely anything in it. Another 3-wide finish there. Fantastic stuff.
It certainly was. Probably a little bit over-aggressive of a move by Ryan Jones to block Mitchell McLeod on the way to the line, but what a finish, and who would have thought that was going to happen in the end? The top 4 all separated by less than 2 tenths, and the gap between Jones and Dalton, absolutely nothing in it, only 5 thousandths in the end.
Yeah, that's great. There's your top 10, and that's how they're going to line up for the second race of the night. Sam Devantier coming home just 3.5 seconds back there in 10th place. Callow and Stevens, also Lindsay Hobbs and Simon Mazzomo, they all managed to make their way up from positions outside the top 15 to finish inside it. An excellent run from those guys, taking advantage of the draft and the bump, biff and barge that we saw all throughout this field. Running at the top 20 there, Nicholas Walsh. Sam Stride started down in 30th place and made it up to 21st by the end, which is a great run from him. And Zach Blanche started in 40th, managed to work his way up to 24th in the end. The big heartbreak story of that one, I think, is Gregory Favell there in 28th position. He started in 6th and could have been on for a good result.
It certainly could have been on for a very, very good result. It's the same with a lot of these drivers, but across the page to the final few finishes of the race. Damon McMullen in 31st, Sam McLeod 32nd, Morganti 33rd, Bo Albert in 34th, 5 laps down. Unfortunately, not taking the start of that one. Chandler in 34th, 35th to Tommy Heyman, Damian Westbrook, and then you got the rest of it, your order there.
Yeah, Hill, Mason and Laws rounding out the running trucks at the finish as we've ticked over to the second race of the night. This is going to be a 7-lapper. And, well, we don't need to take much of a look at the grid because you just saw how they were going to line up with that finishing order. But it's going to be another 1-2 here for Hobson and Postlethwaite in the exact same order as race 1, incidentally. So they'll be looking for a really good start coming down into turn 1, but Ryan Jones will be very hungry after losing that victory, after that contact with Mitchell McLeod on the run to the line. Lockie Dalton and Ben Snell will be looking to get on the podium as well, but you see McLeod there in the blue truck just behind them. Well, he's going to be looking for maximum redemption here. He won't be satisfied with anything less than a win. The timer goes down to 0. The revs rise. The chorus begins anew. Once again, the number 88 is going to lead them away. And we are off, and big slide there as the power gets put down. It's a good start there from Brenton Hobson, and almost a shade of a good start there from Harry Tompkins. He's going to challenge Craig Roffey down into turn 1 on the left side of the screen as they all bunch up coming into the first turn. Hobson leads the way out. Postlethwaite second, Jones third, but it's side by side between Dalton and Snell, and it looks like Dalton's going to win this stoush on the inside into the horseshoe. McLeod looking for some space, but he left the door open for Craig Roffey on the inside, gets bumped out of the way. Daniel Stevens making his way through there on Caleb Hides as the melee begins in the back. We've already got a truck over at the hairpin. I'm going to take a look and see who it was. It's Damien McMullen and Brian Trezise, who have both managed to find themselves on their side.
A little bit of argy-bargy going on in the further back end of the field in the way through the International Horseshoe as well, and it was just a matter of all of them going into, well, trying to take a bit of real estate when there wasn't really any, but at the front of the field, it's certainly been a very, very solid start for those at the front of the field, especially the 2 SSR cars, and someone else is upside down on the way through turn 7, and not quite sure who that was. Devantier, and not ideal for him at all.
No, certainly not. That's a big shame for him as the Synergy duo leads the way side by side into the bus stop. Hobson again lifts off to let Postlethwaite go, and their goal from now is going to try and draft as efficiently as they can as there's 2 wide into the chicane. Lockie Dalton making his way through there on Ryan Jones as we see the field streaming through. McLeod is going to have the mother of all drafts here, and Jones can't get to the bottom of the circuit because Ben Snell has managed to sneak up the inside. Can Craig Roffey make it 3 wide through NASCAR 3 and 4? Gets behind Jones, but that's not going to be enough. That's allowed McLeod right alongside him, and both he and Snell are going to have the advantage. McLeod bumping the back of Snell there. The bump draft begins as they run down to the start-finish line, and a huge amount of top speed for these drivers. 225 kilometers an hour on the run down into turn 1, and Jones is going to have to stay a bit wide here to protect from Snell as, oh my goodness, Dalton up the inside of Hobson as well on the exit of turn 1. They're going to be side by side coming into the horseshoe. Dalton just avoiding the pit wall there, and my goodness, Jones got bumped there by Craig Roffey and just barely manages to avoid spinning it around.
Yeah, very, very good control by Ryan Jones to just hold on with the fact that he copped a massive whack from Craig Roffey on the way into the International Horseshoe. Still single file at the front, and Cade Donnelly has found himself in the tyre wall in most peculiar spot. Get a virtual racing school replay of what's happened there. It was at the International Horseshoe that the incident did happen, and we'll see what happened. He's just decided he...
okay, that's sus. That's very, very sus. Lachlan Manif was the one taken out by that one. Okay, I think the less said about that, the better. We'll leave that to race control towards the end of this event. Back to the lead battle then. Hobson in the draft of Postlethwaite, and they're going to trade places on the run up to the bus stop. Lockie Dalton, though, is right with them, and he has got a massive draft of Hobson. Sneaks up the inside of Postlethwaite on the entry into the chicane, but Pozzie's going to try and protect here. Dalton gets on the throttle a little bit earlier, maintains the side-by-side on the exit. They make contact, and that is going to allow McLeod and Snell a way through.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Postlethwaite going to try, hold it around the outside, and he's going to do his best, but he's not going to have much of a draft. He's going to have Hobson's draft, who's sitting up there helping him out, but certainly is going to be the slightly longer way through the NASCAR turns, and Lockie Dalton's now going to find himself in second place. Postlethwaite's closing as they get towards the start-finish line and towards turn 1. He's not quite going to be able to edge out his teammate in Brenton Hobson on the way down to across the start-finish line, but it's certainly very equal by all of them. 3 rows deep of 2 on the way into turn 1, and make that 4 as well, with the fact that Ryan Jones and Ben Snell are going to be side by side. This is absolutely mayhem.
It is. Postlethwaite getting off the circuit there on the run up to the hairpin. McLeod stays wide, gives him the space, but loses out ever so briefly there to Justin Howe, who's managed to work his way in here, but contact between Howe and McLeod there as they ran side by side down the straight. Justin won't be too happy with that one as Ben Snell completes the move there on Craig Roffey. McLeod again going for a very deep entry into this hairpin. Try and get one up on Glenn Postlethwaite. Oh my goodness, Snell been tipped around just about there by Roffey, Callow, Stevens. They're all in on this now, and that's Biff and Barge. They're going to push each other into this corner. Is any of them going to find the wall? No, but Jackson Callow is going to find 3 positions for 1 in that one corner.
On Roffey into the wall. That's a big incident, and he somehow just managed to hold on to it. That was not what he will have wanted at all. 3 wide on the exit of 7 was going to work, but just everybody washed out, and unfortunately Craig Roffey, the big unfortunate one in that, all being squeezed right up into the wall.
Indeed. Harry Tompkins taking his position from him. Sam Stride copped a fair whack to the side as well. Stevens and Priest into the next turn, just ahead of Ben Snell here. They are all in a train, and that was a slightly compromised exit there for Jackson Callow, and he's carrying a bit of damage to the front of his truck. So Dwayne Priest at the front of this train is going to potentially make a move coming into turn 1. Snell, of course, right on the back of all of this, and he stands to gain a lot coming into turn 1. Can't afford to be too aggressive, though. Got to take care. For the lead, meanwhile, Brenton Hobson and Lockie Dalton running 1 and 2 as these guys come across the line. The 443 just on the inside into turn 1, and a slight tap, but that is going to work out all right for most of them. Snell tries up the inside, makes it 3 wide through turn 1 on the exit into turn 2. Big sparks. Oh no. Take it easy, boys. Jackson Callow recovers there and gets back onto the racetrack.
Yeah, it's still going on, and there's a bit of a biff and barge in that little battle pack, but it's on at the front of the field. Those Lockie Dalton's found himself at the front of the field, and it's really, really messy. And Daniel Stevens getting his elbows out at the moment, and Mizomo involved in this as well. But back at the front of the field, it's very, very compact at the moment. Ryan Jones has ended up finding himself back in P6 in this little pack at the moment. Still plenty of racing to go. He's going to launch it up the inside of Postlethwaite, who's now going to move back into sixth. Runs a little bit deep though, and Postlethwaite's going to do the over and under straight back underneath him and take the position straight back off him. And Mitchell McLeod's going to look to the bottom side of Brenton Hobson as well to get into second place and use that draft from Lockie Dalton just ahead of him to pull him along.
Yeah, well, Brenton Hobson obviously has the same idea there, getting into the draft of McLeod. They're going to bump draft on the run up to the bus stop. Dalton in the middle of the circuit and moving down to the bottom, forced McLeod to lift off there. Wasn't quite expecting where he was going to go. Dalton defending into the chicane, but he's run a bit too deep. This is going to give McLeod the advantage on the exit. Got to take care, guys. Very easy to make a mistake at that corner, and the reason we saw Daniel Stevens getting his elbows out earlier on in the lap is he was the car that was turned around in the first horseshoe on that particular occasion. But have a look at the draft here from Glenn Postlethwaite, aided by Justin Howe. Sorry, that's Hobson that Howe is pushing. Postlethwaite is right behind him and covered by absolutely nothing across the line. Dalton's going to have the inside into turn one. Let's see if Brenton Hobson can hold on to this potential top two here. Looks like he will. McLeod had to check himself up in the middle of the circuit there to try and keep Justin Howe behind him. But Howe to the inside coming into the horseshoe. This battle is going to keep on going for quite some time as saw another truck forced wide in the horseshoe. Jackson Callow getting put through the ringer there as Lindsay Hobbs put a move on him. Meanwhile, number 31 getting into it through the kink. Craig Roffey putting a move there, and now his next target is going to be Daniel Stevens. Roffey with probably a huge fight back in this one as... Whoa, Ryan Jones almost forced off the circuit there by Dwayne Priest. He's going to have the inside for the turn coming onto the oval, and he manages to pull it up this time and secure his position.
Yes, certainly. And with the fact that this lot at the front have been fighting, it's now an 8-car train. So Ben Snell at the back of this train for what is effectively the race lead. Hobson's going to look to the outside of Lockie Dalton as they head down towards the bus stop. McLeod's going to follow him on through. But no, it's actually going to go to the inside. It's going to be 3 wide on the way into the bus stop. Close your eyes, boys. This is going to end well, but McLeod's going to break as late as he can. And here comes Postlethwaite in the background as well, nearly running into a seam. And a massive checkup in the bus stop. Dwayne Priest on the grass and manages to barely hold on to it. Ben Snell's going to take the position off it. This is getting absolutely crazy.
It is, and Priest gave Ryan Jones a little bit of a tap there coming into the chicane, I believe. I think he just went a little bit too deep, but here we go for the lead. Have a look at the run here from Brenton Hobson. Lockie Dalton, though, bump drafting Mitchell McLeod. They're going to try and maintain this coming into turn one. It's going to be difficult, though. The Synergy teammates, they've got quite a fight on their hands. Justin Howe forcing his way up the inside of all of them, and he's going to take 3 for 1 in turn one up the inside of Lockie Dalton. And Dalton, with contact with Hobson, almost spun off the circuit there, and all of them just avoiding the pit wall massively. I can't believe the insanely tiny gaps that we're seeing here as they all try and find their own little bit of racetrack through this hairpin. McLeod having a small gap now, but that is going to mean nothing once they get to the oval. Jones on the inside of Snell through the kink, and Ben Snell just holding on to it, going to keep his truck up the inside of Ryan Jones. Postlethwaite will be wanting to get past both of these guys with the way that they are battling. Jones, though, nails the exit of the hairpin and secures that position. He is going to have some nice draft space there versus Brennan Hobson as Howe tries going for the inside exit on Lockie Dalton, and he's running completely outside the white lines there. It hasn't helped him, though. Dalton slotting back in ahead.
Certainly, and certainly no one is out of reach in this top 8 at all of possibly winning this race. Justin Howe going to look to the outside of Lockie Dalton, but he's just about going to make it work. He's going to keep there. He's going to go around the outside of McLeod as well. Not quite going to make it happen. Cuts across the grass at the bus stop. That's probably going to get a slowdown and off track as well. So has to be a little bit careful in that regard. But here comes Dalton back at him around the outside. A little bit of a bump draft on for good measure as well. But Hobson, Jones, and Snell are all going to close up really, really quick. And I think Mitchell McLeod's now in a position where he doesn't know what to do because he's got a massive gap, but he's leading this race, and it's going to be the white flag this time by.
Certainly is, and this is how they're all going. Dalton lifts off slightly. He can see McLeod just ahead of him. Howe, though, moving up to the outside across the start-finish line. Another tap from behind for McLeod from Dalton. Gives him a little bit of extra momentum into the braking zone, protecting the lead from Justin Howe. And Howe getting a little bit of a slide on there. Oh, there's big contact. Jones knocking Dalton into Hobson, and Hobson has fallen behind his teammate now with Dwayne Priest for company. Look at the slide from Lockie Dalton as he tried his best to keep it on the racetrack. Contact between Snell and Postlethwaite. Meanwhile, just behind, they have lost that advantage on the infield for now, and careful, Brenton, forcing Dwayne Priest off the circuit there on the run up to the kink. These guys racing incredibly hard here on the final lap. McLeod going slightly wide on the entry into the hairpin, and Justin Howe almost saw it as an opportunity to go up the inside. McLeod, though, nailing the throttle again, staying ahead of Howe. Now, what does McLeod do from here? Does he lift off, allow Justin Howe to go ahead into the chicane? Howe will know that McLeod will be thinking of that. How does he respond?
Yeah, certainly. It's one of those situations because you don't want everybody else to catch up that's behind you, but you kind of want to put yourself in a position where you're not going to be disadvantaged. He's going to bump draft McLeod on the way down towards the bus stop. It's going to help a little bit, but Ryan Jones looming in the background as well as Lockie Dalton, and they're going to be closing up very rapidly. Justin Howe looks to the outside, but things get over, and big contact behind from Jones and Dalton, and Dalton's barely going to get that position around the outside. Contact between the two of them. Big tussle going on. Ben Snell's going to be the big victorious one out of it, as well as Glenn Postlethwaite, and unfortunately those two, Ryan Jones and Lockie Dalton, going to lose out massively. But here comes Justin Howe on the outside of Mitchell McLeod. He's going to drag race to the line. He's going to try and make it work. No fencing him this time by for McLeod, and McLeod's going to try his best, but it's not going to be working out in his favor. A little bit of door-to-door contact between the two of them, and it's going to be Justin Howe who's going to win the race by absolutely nothing.
Wow. Great run there from Justin Howe to work his way up. Ben Snell protecting third there from Lockie Dalton. And Dalton got into the back of Jones coming into the chicane. So that's the reason why we saw that little toss-up between them. Glenn Postlethwaite just holding on there for fifth place. As we take a look at the VRS replay, we're going to see what happened for drivers further back in the field. Having another look then at the win for Justin Howe, and you see Dalton and Snell side by side. Jones's momentum was completely killed from that incident, and Postlethwaite getting into the draft of Lockie Dalton. And you'll see how close they were at the line. Postlethwaite actually had to go off the circuit coming into the tri-oval. Snell wanted to use the pavement, and Postlethwaite forced off into the grass, only just holding on there for fifth place from Ryan Jones. But that was how close it was for the podium. We've still got one more race to go here, Cam, and it's going to be 9 laps long. What kinds of battles are we going to be seeing in the future?
Oh, who knows? The past 2 races that we've just witnessed have just been beyond expectation on what to expect. I mean, you would never see 4 rows deep of cars being too wide in anything anything quicker, and just unbelievable driving from everybody to make the finishes that close every which way through the field. So it's been an absolutely enjoyable night, and if this last race is anything to go by, it's going to go out with a bang, and it is going to be absolutely spectacular.
Indeed, the Synergy Stranglehold has been broken. It means Justin Howe and Mitchell McLeod are going to be starting on the front row for the next race, with Snell and Doughton on the row behind. Postlethwaite and Hobson, they'll be starting line astern with Ryan Jones and Dwayne Priest for company, with Stevens finishing in 9th place, despite the incidents that we saw happening with him. It's going to be a great result there for Daniel Stevens. He'll be hoping to hold on to that top 10, with Craig Roffey holding on and finishing where he started in the started 7th in this race and finished in 10th. These are the rest of the top 20. Sam Stride would have been hoping for a lot better there after that big whack coming onto the oval. Simon Mazzomo coming home to finish in 14th. That's exactly where he started, but he certainly had a lot of adventures along the way.
He certainly did have a lot of adventures along the way, as did pretty much everybody in this entire field, because it's just been absolutely chaotic. No matter where you look, whether it's in the top 10, top 20, or even the top 30, it really is chaotic. But you got Tyler Ligo Vickery just outside the top 25 by Maxfield, Corwell, Blanche, Favell, McLeod, Finlay, Morganti, Walker, and Trezise to round out the top 30.
And the final finishes on the lead lap were Jared Laws, Matthew Hill, Sam Devantier, who we saw take a big hit, Damian McMullen and Damian Westbrook. The final finishes on the lead lap. Howe, Chandler, Walsh, Donnelly, all coming home, but laps down, and then you get into retirement and did not start territory. Well, that concludes the first 2 rounds of racing for the night, but we've got another one coming up, 9 laps. You're watching the Pro Truck Showdown, presented by Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs, here on SimSpeed TV. We'll be back in just a moment. Showdown, first round of the 3rd season from Daytona Road Course. We've seen 2 fantastic races so far tonight, and we have got a 9-lap feature, 9-lap final ready to go. My goodness, this is going to be a very hard-fought victory for whoever crosses the line in first place. Justin Howe is granted pole position on account of winning the 2nd race. And it's pretty unclear at this moment, Cam, who exactly is going to come away with the round win, because these results have been incredibly varied.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just been absolutely crazy finishes as far as what we've seen in the past 2 races as well. It's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen, with the fact that you've got basically the top 8 all within a shot, if not the top 10, so long as they all behave. So it really is anybody's guess as to who's going to win this final race and who's going to end up coming away with the winners for the round.
Oh no, looks like that was almost a jump start there for Mitchell McLeod. He's got to be very careful that he doesn't get a penalty as we are green, and Lockie Dalton trying to put the power down, sliding down the circuit and losing traction completely. He gets swamped by the rest of the field. Ryan Jones is already ahead of him and up behind Craig Roffey as they come into turn 1. Daniel Stevens, unfortunately, not taking the start in this, but it looks like it is going to be Justin Howe leading the way out of turn 1 with Snell and McLeod in very hot pursuit. We'll see what kinds of incidents happen down at the International Horseshoe, rather. The bus stop horseshoe, as our director says, but oh goodness me. Bust up. That's a good suggestion from our director. That's a good summary for what the racing has been like here today, as Howe protects from Snell on the inside. Runs a little bit wide on the exit, but that's pretty good in these trucks. You're able to put the power down over a longer period of time. There's Tommy Heyman trying to work his way up the field. Heyman starting in 16th place and now up into 14th as Aaron Russell moves down to protect from one of his teammates, but take care, guys. That's going to allow the number 21 alongside him, Jack Flood, in the draft of his teammate. Oh, wow. Okay, we cut to there at exactly the right time. Gregory Favell spun off the circuit massively. I don't know if he was the spinner or the spinnee, but once again, drama on the opening lap as Justin Howe goes a bit too deep into the chicane, almost gives a run there to Ben Snell. In fact, he is going to give a run to Ben Snell as they all run line astern on the exit of the bus stop.
Yeah, he certainly is going to give it to Ben Snell by the looks of it, and Snell's going to stay to the bottom side of the racetrack when McLeod's going to have the momentum on his side, and he's going to have the draft of Justin Howe as Ben Snell, so that momentum is going to be slightly nullified for McLeod, but he's still continuing to gain on both of them, and he's going to end up actually taking the lead of this race and leading the first lap. No, it's actually going to go to Justin Howe by absolutely nothing in the end, but side by side on the way into turn 1 are Howe and McLeod's trying to hold around the outside, not going to happen, and McLeod braking early and actually caught Postlethwaite off guard there a little bit. Postlethwaite launched it up the inside, but had to back out of it last minute.
Yeah, very aggressive turn in there from Mitchell McLeod as we ride on board with Brenton Hobson. There's the moves up ahead. Going to the outside is Craig Roffey on Glenn Postlethwaite, but unfortunately that's going to allow Ben Snell right back through as, oh dear, there's been a big pile up on the exit of the hairpin. Tommy Heyman, Lindsay Hobbs involved, and Jackson Callow as well. Lamp manages to stick the landing, though, and keep going, but that was quite the coming together as we take a look at the VRS replay. We'll have a look at what happened to Jackson Callow here. Just a bunch of trucks coming together on the exit, 3 of them coming together. That was the 443 of, I think, Dwayne Priest in that too. That was a huge hit.
Yeah, it certainly was, and he almost looked like he was going to make it through, but unfortunately wasn't to be in the end, and just the way that everything unfolded in front of him unfortunately resulted in him going for a little bit of a tumble. But at the front of the field, McLeod's going to be on the bottom side of the racetrack as Justin Howe's got some momentum heading towards the bus stop. Is Howe going to be able to brake late enough to take the lead off Mitchell McLeod? We'll have to wait and see. They hit the brake pedal about now. McLeod draws up alongside and stays on the inside. He's going to get the position. That checks up Justin Howe, and that's going to bring Postlethwaite, Roffey, Snell, Jones, and Hobson right back into this.
Yeah, and Roffey outbraked Ben Snell into the bus stop as well, so he's gained an extra position out of that too. Let's see if Glenn Postlethwaite on the back of Justin Howe can get this done into turn 1. Mitchell McLeod now has the same kind of gap that he saw at the start of the final lap and in last race. The gap at the line last lap between McLeod and Howe was 0.021 of a second. It's going to be a bit bigger than that now, but certainly no sign of this letting up as, take it easy, Priest, Heyman, and Wellman all together here for the final positions inside the top 10, as that's a fastest lap from Simon Mazzomo. He's just right behind these guys. He could stand a chance of getting into the top 10 here, could Simon?
Yeah, absolutely, he could, and he could even be in with a shot of the win should the front bunch end up coming together and open the door. So we'll have to keep an eye on Mizomo and whether he's going to be able to come away with a solid result. He hasn't really had that great of a result in the past 2 races so far. He's been at least in the top 15, but this is going to be his best result so far. Roffy's on the grass. He's barely going to pull it up, and unfortunately those cones are going to be going to the grave, unfortunately, but at least they're going to be back on track. But certainly Roffy managing to barely pull that one up in the end.
They go into traffic cone heaven as the 2 leaders bump each other into the turn coming onto the oval. There's Heyman getting up the inside of Priest, and Simon Mizomo already making the position up there on Gary Wellman. He is inside the top 10 now, and he has got Priest and Heyman side by side just up ahead. He's going to catch a very delicious draft coming into the bus stop. Priest is going to slot in behind Heyman, maybe go for the over-under coming out of NASCAR 1 and 2. Heyman stays in the middle of the circuit, forces Priest to choose a side, then moves up to driver's right, and Mizomo very late on the brakes, almost got into the back of Priest and getting tapped by Gary Wellman coming into the bus stop. Manages to hold on to it, though. Fantastic stuff as now Mitchell McLeod's lead, it seems, has extended with all of the battling that's been going on. Snell and Howe fighting very closely, but for second.
It's very, very close at the moment for second, and looking like Roffy's going to look to make a move on Justin Howe on the way, and McLeod's going to be into the pit lane, so McLeod's got big issues, and so does Daventio, as he's ending up rolling over at the bus stop, and McLeod's been given a black flag from the start.
They reckon you need fuel.
Not going to be too ideal, and they reckon you need fuel as well, according to Ryan Jones, who just makes a cameo appearance in the background. So big drama going on with the fact that this race is a little bit longer than what is apparently scheduled, and it's going to really cause some drama come the end of this race. This could end up like the San Marino Grand Prix back in the day when everybody ran out of fuel.
Indeed it could. Well, let's see how this works out. I remember as now it's Howe and Roffy battling for the lead super hard through the kink on the infield. McLeod is out of his box. It's a long pit stop for him. 31, 32, 33, 34. He's still at a standstill there, is Mitchell McLeod. Not too sure whether that is a penalty or a fuel issue. 40 seconds apparently is the penalty for a black flag, and it looks like that time has passed. So that was a black flag for the start from Mitchell McLeod. But on the fuel issue, I mean, I remember talking with Jay and thinking about this along with Ryan Jones in the first round of the Summer Series, because we raced at the same track then, and there were doubts that the trucks would be able to make it to the end of the 9-lap final race. Unfortunately, we never got to find out because the final race didn't run, but now we get a proper chance to see whether these drivers have to save a bit of fuel in these trucks.
Yes, certainly, and it's not as easy as it sounds as well, with the fact that you don't have a clutch to push in every single braking zone, so you've actually got to think about it a little bit, in that you've just got to lift off when you're in the draft, and also lift very, very early to just roll into some of the corners. So it really is going to come down to a matter of who's the best fuel saver, should fuel be a problem, and who's going to have the draft as well, because if you're at the front of the field and in clean air, you're really going to be in trouble should you end up low on fuel.
Indeed, it's going to be a good fuel-saving opportunity for Craig Roffey as he's right up behind Justin Howe. But look at this with Ryan Jones, Tommy Heyman working his way through with Dwayne Priest. They're now into just about the top 5. Priest goes on through on Heyman. Has to check up a bit there with Jones on the inside. As we check back at Todd Maxfield and Aaron Russell battling for 17th and 18th. It seems that no matter where you are in the field, there is someone to race with, and that's how far behind Mitchell McLeod is. He is all alone on circuit right now. He has no draft, nothing to help him right now.
He certainly doesn't, but back here they certainly all do have a little bit of draft going on, as Jack Flood is going to be side by side with Harry Tompkins. Tompkins suffering but from a little bit of technical issues, and I must say that talking car in a natural colour that it is, and that metallic orange does look very, very nice, I must admit.
Yeah, it looked wrong to me at first, but it's growing on me, that orangey colour, because Torque Inc., of course, usually running blue or black, as you can see, with Sam McLeod's number 17 right there. But always good to have different colors, see if you can tell the drivers apart. Of course, me being me, I still have trouble with that from time to time. But for the lead, Justin Howe on Craig Roffey into the draft. Roffey managing to get the lead through the infield. And Howe, listen to this. Justin Howe lifting off. He is fuel saving right now. It's going to be doubtful how many of these drivers are going to end up making it to the finish. So they wanted to push the draft to its absolute maximum, but now, if you're in the lead of a draft train, it's probably one of the better places to be in terms of position, but once again, you're going to have to keep it flat out the whole way down the oval, so you do not want to be at the front.
You certainly don't want to be at the front at all, because you're just going to end up burning all that fuel. But just behind you, look, and here comes
Roffey
into the lane Roffey. So another driver decides to come down into the lane with the fact that there is going to be possible fuel issues. We'll see what happens as the timer ticks up when he pulls into his box. But into the lead of this race now, Dwayne Priest from nowhere, and that's a big checkup going on behind for the likes of 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th as there's contact behind.
Yeah, goodness me. Gary Wellman getting a big tap there. And oh my goodness, forced off the circuit. Damian Westbrook is going to snatch that position away from him. Sideways on the entry into the hairpin as he battles with Lindsay Hobbs. Well, Jones and Stride are together as well, as now Dwayne Priest has been promoted to the lead somehow. He's had a great run these last couple of laps, has Dwayne. Really turned it up in terms of pace.
He has turned it up a lot in currently this race, and that's not what Russell will have wanted at all, being upside down at, I think that's the International Horseshoe. We'll get a virtual racing school replay, and that's a big tumble for Aaron Russell, unfortunately, at the International Horseshoe, and it looked like contact with himself and that Philip Howell, just side-by-side contact, catching wheels, and up and over he went. So the talking driver won't be too particularly happy with that one, having to tow back to pit lane. But back to the front of the field, Dwayne Priest trying to do everything he can to break away from those, but also probably trying to do a little bit of fuel saving at the same time. So we'll have to see what's happening. Justin Howell still fuel saving behind, as well as possibly Glenn Postlethwaite, and Postlethwaite all over the back of Justin Howell now. But this rest of the field is actually starting to break up a little bit with the fact that everybody's kind of a little bit fuel conscious.
Yeah, we're not seeing the huge packs and like 7 cars covered by a tenth of a second as you cross the start-finish line. Everyone's just line astern as they become aware of this fuel issue. Who's going to go for the lane this time round? It looks like Dwayne Priest is going to, from the lead. And Ryan Jones thought about it, it seems, but electing not to. Also coming into the pits is Damian Westbrook and Matthew Hill. So more drivers dropping down the order as the fuel comes into play.
Yes, certainly, and it's shuffling up the order as a result, and it really is going to make that pit entry and pit lane traverse time and exit as well all that much more important, being able to get in and out as quickly as possible, because the fact you're not going to want to lose time, and you're not going to want to lose positions as well. And it looks like Dwayne Priest is just going to come out behind Christopher Finlay as well, so not too far off the lead battle is he, with the fact that he's just inside that top 15 and is probably going to be in a reasonable position should those ahead of him and those that he was battling with have to come down onto the lane. But we're starting to get very close to the checkered flag, and those who save fuel are really going to be in a very, very good spot.
Yeah, and you saw there that Dwayne Priest managed to beat Justin Howe running wide in the turn coming onto the oval. It looks like he's doing it on purpose to try and get Glenn Postlethwaite up to the rear of him and let him buy into the bus stop. But crucially there, you did see that Dwayne Priest beat Craig Roffey and is ahead of him now. Both of those trucks have pitted. That's going to be position decided between them for now. What is going to happen here for the lead, though? Everyone being very tentative here, lifting off, and Sam Stride going for it, not being tentative at all, coming up into third, getting past Ben Snell and Tommy Heyman, and Snell pushing deep into the second part of the chicane. manages to get the run ever so briefly, but Tommy Heyman's going to sneak up the inside of him again, or maybe. Yes, Ben Snell gives him just enough room to get the job done. Turn our attention to Justin Howe up at the front as we see Snell fall behind Brenton Hobson. He might have gotten a slowdown from that one. Is anyone going for pit lane here? Looks like Heyman's going for it. Looks like Lindsay Hobbs and Gary Wellman too. All of them going for it. Sam Stride leads across the line from Justin Howe as we are on the penultimate lap.
Certainly, and this top 5 is really shuffled up with the fact that you've now got Sam Strider at the front of this field battling with Justin Howe at the moment. Dwayne Priest coming through the tri-oval. Now he is going to end up popping out roughly just behind Ben Snell, so he hasn't lost too much time with the fact that there's now a few more drivers peeling into the lane, but Ryan Jones and Simon Mazomo getting into each other out of the International Horseshoe, and Mazomo being forced off the road by Ryan Jones on a few sweet words to each other over the in-game comms from Mazomo and Jones going to get shuffled out by Postlethwaite. More contact between the two of them. Hobson's going to look up the inside, not going to be able to get it done in the end, though. This is turning into an absolute cracker of a finish.
Certainly is, and a great run from Simon Mazomo to get a bit deeper into the top 10 as well. Here we go then, Stride out in the lead. Glenn Postlethwaite up the inside of Justin Howe. Look at this, Howe is lifted off a bit. Oh, and Pozzie's lifting off too. None of them want to be in front, and Ryan Jones is going to be forced to find a way around these guys. He's going to lead Hobson and Mazomo in the draft train around the outside. I'm loving this. This is so silly, but I love it, this fuel situation. Let's see what Sam Stride does. He's got the mother of all leads, but he'll be a bit borderline on fuel as well as Jones gets into second and gets really crossed up through the bus stop chicane. Going to leave him open to a draft from Brenton Hobson. So then, through NASCAR 3 and 4 for one more time before the white flag flies.
Certainly, and it's now going to come down to who's going to have the most amount of fuel in the tank when they reach the line, if they are borderline. And Jones is coming down to the lane, and Mazomo as well as everybody else behind, and Stride's coming in. So Hobson going to stay out, and a few others as well. Justin Howe, Glenn Postlethwaite, Ben Snell, all deciding to stay out. This is going to be line ball call if they're all going to be very, very close on fuel. They're going to need to save heaps in order to get home if they're not going to have enough.
Yes, indeed, and there's Dwayne Priest back up into 7th place now, as I think that was Craig Roffey making his way past him. And Roffey has been on a great run as Jones's pit stop has been completed. He's made contact with the pit exit wall there. Not the great way to re-enter the racetrack, but we have to keep a very close eye on the drivers who have stayed out up at the front. There's every chance that they could run out of fuel on the way to the line, but big, massive lifts there for Brenton Hobson. He knows how borderline he is on fuel, and he's missed his final opportunity to take a pit stop. And, you know, if he pulls this off and wins it, it basically means that the drivers who pitted earlier did so for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely, and it really is going to just show how good Hobson is at saving fuel, with the fact that he's managed to end up getting home on the fuel that he has. But we'll have to wait and see as they come onto the oval now through turns 1 and 2. This is going to be incredibly close as to who's going to end up where. It really is just going to be a matter of who's going to be able to cough enough across the line. Hobson's still flat out through NASCAR 1 and 2. Postlethwaite is lifting massively. Snell's lifting massively. I think Justin Howe's out of fuel, and so is Daniel Stevens.
Oh, yes. Stevens trying to push Justin Howe along down the back straight, but that's not going to happen for them. Oh, unfortunately, Craig Roffey had to take a bit of evasive action there as Brenton Hobson manages to make it out of the bus stop chicane, and he has just got the run to the line to go. Craig Roffey up into 4th place now. But there we go. Brenton Hobson and Glenn Postlethwaite have managed to pull it off. Synergy Sim Racing have been known in different series for nailing strategies. Well, the fuel saving now has saved them this time. It's a Synergy Sim Racing 1-2, and they conked out across the line.
Yeah, they certainly did. So they only just had enough in the end to get home. Craig Roffey is going to come home across the line ahead of Ryan Jones to take home a P4. Ryan Jones going to be home in P5 only, just as Tommy Heyman gives him a big whack and was going to end up coming home in at P6. Strider comes home at 7th, 8th to Lockie Dalton. Jack Flood going to manage to somehow earn himself a P9 in the end in a top 10 finish. Same with Tompkins and Maxwell going to just be behind on the limit.
Indeed, 20th versus 21st, though. Sean Doyle and Tyler Lugo Vickery side by side to the line. That's a little bit of reduced pace there from another truck. Looks like Walsh might just be beaten out here by Lugo Vickery, and he has been by, wow, just a couple hundredths of a second there, 0.021 again across the line. Nicholas Walsh tried his very best, but couldn't get it done. Brian Trezise there, out of fuel on the run up to the line, and Gary Wellman has somehow found his way onto his roof.
He has somehow, not quite sure what's going on there, but we'll grab a virtual racing school replay to see what's happened to Wellman, and that is in, I think, turn NASCAR 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken. I did see a lot of smoke in the background earlier. I'm not quite sure what has gone on there, but we'll at least try to get the replay, and here we go. We'll see what's happened here coming out of turn 7 and heading up to the top side of the racetrack.
Oh, no.
Turned from behind, and that's not gone particularly well for him. A little bit of bump drafting going on, then just caught the rear bumper and straight into the wall.
Oh, man. That's a big shame. Wellman sent tumbling over there. That was Matthew Hill, who he made contact with, and really hope he's not using virtual reality, because that would have been like getting put through the tumble cycle of a clothes dryer. As you see Brian Trezise trundling along by with no fuel left in his truck. Well, that ends it. Synergy Sim Racing have finally gotten their 1-2 for tonight. And considering that Brenton Obson winning 2 races, he'd probably be in contention for the round victory here. But any one of these drivers could have taken enough points to come home. Glenn Postlethwaite with a 2nd, a 5th, and a 2nd. Ben Snell, 5th, 3rd, and 3rd. 7th, 10th, and 4th for Craig Roffey. A great way to end off the night for him. Ryan Jones would certainly have been hoping for a little bit more from that night with that contact with Mitch McLeod in race 1. Still gets a podium for his troubles, though. Tommy Heyman coming through to finish in 6th place after starting 16th. Sam Stride from 19th. Great run from those guys. Dalton, Flood, and Tompkins round out the top 10, and it was another great fight back from Flood and Tompkins.
It was a very, very good fight back in at the end to get a top 10. And then you have Maxford, obviously, just outside the top 10 and 11th. Sean Doyle in 12th with Devantier coming home in 13th. And look at the difference between Devantier and Cordwell, separated by hardly anything in the end. Finlay's going to go home in 15th. Mitch McLeod, after recovering from that penalty, comes home in 16th. 17th, Nicholas Walsh. Simon Mazzoma somehow manages to recover to 18th, and he got a speeding penalty as well. Just now going to be in 19th, and Sam McLeod rounding out top 20.
Riccardo Morganti comes home in 21st after starting 28th. That's a good run from him. Philip Howe coming home in 22nd with Tyler Lugo Vickery and Lindsay Hobbs classified there. It looks like Nicholas Walsh got a penalty for contact, and that's put him further down the order. Favell, Blanche, Westbrook, Walker, Priest, and Wellman rounding out the top 30. Over
the page, and you're going to have Brian Trezise and Matthew Hill being the final finishers. Aaron Russell, Daniel Stevens, Damien McMullen, Jade Chandler, Kay Donnelly, Jackson Callow, Jared Laws, and Caleb Hydes rounding out the top 40. It looks like Laws and Hydes didn't take the start, and neither did any of the rest of those drivers that we would have seen had we gone over the page. Well, what a night to start off the 3rd season of the Pro Truck Showdown.
I can't wait to see how this season goes, what we're going to see from the drivers at the front. It was a big draft battle here at Daytona, but next round it could be entirely different. As is tradition in the Pro Truck Showdown, we don't find out what the next circuit is until the day before the race. So if you're interested in being surprised and having a run with these guys, make sure to check out the Pro Truck Showdown on Facebook. They are accepting sign-ups. And we want to give a big thanks as we end off to Scumander Coffee Mug and Hot Toddy's Heating Installs for their continued support of this series. Fantastic to have you guys on board for this one. I'm Reese Gardner, Cameron Dance in the commentary box with me, Jay Kennedy on cameras and making everything happen behind the scenes. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, bye for now, but not forever. We'll see you tomorrow for VRS GT3.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?